Caribbean Sea, between Florida and South America, lie the three windward islands of the Netherlandse Antilles, St. Martin, St. Eustatius, and Saba. The fishermen of St. Martin land their fish at Philipsburg, capital of the Netherlands part of the island, with its 1,600 inhabitants. Not only fish come from the sea, but salt as well. At one time, salt was produced from the salt pans of St. Martin for export. Now they only supply the home market. The island was first sighted by Columbus in 1493. It was on November the 14th, St. Martin's Day. Oil drums everywhere show how the island has changed since the days when its fortunes were bound up with sailing ships. Twice a week, the government schooner Blue Peter links St. Martin with St. Eustatius and Saba. Captain Crane takes on his cargo. He also carries mail and passengers. Life on St. Martin centers around De Ruyter Square. And life on De Ruyter Square centers around the post office, the link with the nearby world of the other islands and with the greater world beyond. Simpson's Bay and Lagoon are a haven of beauty and quiet. Here, life seems to have no other aim than relaxation. Dutch and local experts join together to plan the future of the island. When the fishermen have sold their fish at Philipsburg, they bring their lobsters to Simpson's Bay village on their way to Curacao and Venezuela. The aeroplanes make a twice-weekly break in the contented silence that engulfs the island, bringing back men who have been working away from home. A family visit is always a great event on St. Martin. The island's tasty export, its lobsters, go on board. Then the mail comes off to be loaded straight away onto the Blue Peter for onward transmission to the other islands. Rather slower than airmail, but just as reliable. Leaving Saba on the starboard beam, the Blue Peter heads for St. Eustatius, Statia as they call it here, and she will be there in about 5 hours. The men handle their ship with all the knowledge they have inherited from generations of forebears who sailed these waters before them. During the American War of Independence, St. Eustatius was a center for running supplies to the blockaded Americans. Close on 20,000 people lived in the old harbor then, compared with a mere 1,000 today. In 1776, a salute was fired from Fort Orange when, for the first time ever in those waters, a frigate appeared off the coast flying the new American flag. She was the Andrew Doria, and a plaque commemorates her historic visit. 6 years later, the British Admiral Rodney attacked the island. Statia was virtually defenseless. Every building was destroyed, and with them the island's prosperity. For a time, in order to lure unwitting ships, Rodney left the Dutch flag fluttering over the island. There is no lovelier sight in these seas than the approach to Saba, the smallest island of the group, sometimes called the Capri of the Caribbean. The volcanic peaks of Saba rise high enough to catch the clouds. There is no harbor in Saba. Landing on the island really is landing in the adventurous tradition of the past. In the days of the schooners, ships often visited Saba, and the islanders possessed quite a fleet of their own. But when the steamships came, they mostly passed by. Now, the dwellers on distant Saba measure their lives by the twice-weekly arrivals of their precious deliveries of letters and money orders.
All right, stand by. All ready? Good chance. Let's go.
Not so long ago, passengers found only donkeys to take them on up the hill. Now they have jeeps. They're very handy, these jeeps, but often a donkey can do more. Funnily enough, the road that twists up the mountainside does not lead to the top, it leads to the bottom. The bottom is called that because it lies in the bottom of the crater of a volcano. And it is the hub of existence for Saber's 1,200 inhabitants. Unlike the people of the other islands in this area, the population of Saber has mixed very little. The women occupy themselves with embroidery, and the men are away, for they have little chance of earning a living on the island. When there were only donkeys, the boys dreamed of being jeep drivers. Now the jeeps have come, but the boys stick to their old friends. Higher up, in the cool, is Windward Side. Here again, life revolves around the post office. Letters are all important when families are scattered as soon as their members are old enough to work. There are only a few names on the island, for it is a long time since these families settled here.
Mariah Johnson, Bernard Hassel, Gladys Hassel, Joseph Cox.
The women savor the words deeply and treasure them in their minds for a long time.
It seems as I never can get out of that mess of trouble. Believe me, all I...
Who are these letters from? A husband working abroad for 30 years. A son, a friend, or a beloved one. Twice a week, the letters arrive and the heart of Saber beats a little faster.
The family were together, and now they are always something.
Still higher, between the mountains and the deep blue sea, is Hell's Gate. At Hell's Gate, you can only go up or down. There is no other direction. Here the dead are buried in their own gardens. Men who left Saber in the prime of their lives come back in their old age to claim the corner of the garden reserved for their eternal rest.
I first left Saber, I could not read nor write, but I never lost a ship nor I never lost a man. Running passengers for the gold fields in South America, running the trade between Barbados, Demerara, Cayenne, Curacao, Haiti. I made my money when I was ignorant and threw it away when I got wise.
Another young man leaves Saber. He is off to seek his fortune in the wide world outside. And out of what he earns, he will always send something back to his family in the island where the export trade is so minute. Soon he will write home, and those he left behind will join the twice-weekly pilgrimage to the post office. Twice a week, letters coming in, twice a week, letters going out. Away she goes, the Blue Peter, with her cargo of bananas and embroidery, and the letters that unite the families of Saber with their loved ones far away. Away she goes, back to St. Martin, where the plane is waiting to take off for the busy, noisy world that seldom has a thought to spare for these peaceful islands in the Caribbean Sea.